Hi everyone, I'm Carol Keller, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Illinois in the US, coming to you today with 4 alternative cards for this month's paper pumpkin kit. And I actually have ideas for a couple more, so stay tuned for that. I am excited to share this kit with you, and I'm going to turn my camera around right away so that we can get started with the projects. Here is a quick look at this month's paper pumpkin kit. These are the 3 cards that it makes. Remember always to check the back to make sure you have all your supplies. And here is a little thank you note because there is an extra stamp set in this kit. Since March is Paper Pumpkin's anniversary, they always include a little something extra, and in this case it's a beautiful stamp set. And then of course a little sneak peek at next month's kit. You can go to the Paper Pumpkin fan club page on Facebook and there'll be a little sneak peek video as well. The stamp or the ink spot for this month is Misty Moonlight. Got some beautiful gems, and then this is the stamp set that goes with the kit, and it's got thinking of you, sentiment, congratulations, a little note, I will always be here for you, and thanks and hello. And then this beautiful set is the extra one, and the sentiments are celebrate, best wishes, time to celebrate, and sending you birthday wishes. So I am going to do 2 cards using the components from the kit and 2 with that wonderful stamp set. So I'm going to put that aside so that we can get started. These are the 4 cards that I've designed for today. These 2 are using components of the kit, and actually this one uses 2 components from the kit, 3 actually, the tag, the rhinestones, and the ribbon. That's right, I forgot to show you there's ribbon that comes with it as well. It is this one. So these 2 cards are again using a lot of components from the kit, and then these use the stamp set. This one doesn't use anything other than the stamp set, and I'll go through each one at a time and show you how to make them. Before we get started with the cards, I want to show you some of the coordinating items that go along with the kit. The On the Horizon stamp set and the Horizon dies. They are companion items, as is this stunning designer series paper called New Horizons. This is probably my favorite item in the whole January to June mini catalog. These are some of the designs, and then on the back, coordinating colors and also some scenes. And here are the rest of them, just absolutely stunning. And the stamps that go with the On the Horizon set are great companions to this as well. That's probably my favorite one in the whole paper pack. All right, here is the first card, and again, it's a fun fold that's inspired by another demonstrator by the name of Jackie Bullheis. And she used a 12 by 12 sheet of designer series paper as her card base, and I used a 12 by 12 basic white. But in case you don't have 12 by 12, the card I'm going to do now you'll be able to do it with an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. The measurements, if you are using 12 by 12, is you cut it at 5.5 by 11.25 inches, and you score it at 1 inch, 4 inches, and 7 inches. So if you're using 12 by 12, that's what you're going to do. If you're using 8.5 by 11, I'm going to show you how to do that right now. I'm going to bring in my trimmer, and we are going to cut it at 5.5 still, but this time it's 5.5 by 11. And for our scoring, we are going to score at 6 3/4 inches, at 3 3/4 inches, and at 3/4 of an inch. And actually, I'm going to do it on this side because I find that it's easier. You just flip it over. And so we have it at 3/4, 3 3/4, and 6 3/4. And so you can do it obviously from either end. and then we're going to fold it. And we're going to fold it, this is going to be the inside of the card, so we'll fold it this way, and then back on itself, and on itself again. I'm going to take my bone folder, give those some nice crisp folds. Bring the card back in, and my thought was using this card from the Paper Pumpkin kit, and I forgot to say that it's called Beyond the Horizon, so this is for the from the Beyond the Horizon kit. And I loved the scene, but I didn't like the white around the edge. I wanted to do something different, and I did that with both of the cards that I made with the kit. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut it down. So again, bringing in my trimmer and just making it so that I'm cutting off that white edge all the way around. And you're going to want to save this piece because we're going to use it for one of the other cards a little bit later. And I've got still a little white showing on this edge, but it's not going to matter because it's going to be hidden underneath this flap. And then I thought that this paper paired perfectly with this piece of Designer Series paper from that New Horizons paper pack. And so I wanted to use it to sort of create a smaller scene and then a larger one on the inside. So we're going to cut this one down as well. We're cutting off 1 inch at this end. That's what I did. Or in this case, 3/4 of an inch. So we got to change that measurement up a little. So 3/4 of an inch. And we're going to use that on the front. And then this one is actually 4 1/4 inches across. So like this. And now by 5 1/2 this way. And I believe I did it this way. Cut off that little 1/2 inch on the top since it is so light. And that is our piece for the inside. So it fits right on the inside, and we're going to do our writing on this panel right here. So I also did some stamping. So I think we'll do that before we put it on the inside. I have, first of all, a stamp from the On the Horizon stamp set. We're going to stamp that in the corner, and we don't want it to show when the flap is down. So I stamped it a little bit off of the edge, which I will show you. So I'm bringing in a scrap since we're going to go off the edge, and I'm stamping it in Soft Succulent. Ink it up, and then we're going to put it right to the edge, the top of the last leaf right by the edge and toward the bottom. And then we're bringing in Misty Moonlight. And for the inside, we're doing Thinking of You. I need a lot of Thinking of You cards for this month, so this kit was perfect. And we're going to stamp that right here in that white space. And then while we have the Misty Moonlight out, we're going to bring in this and stamp the hello. And again, both of those sentiments come from the Paper Pumpkin kit. And we'll stamp that right here. And that is all of our stamping. So now it's more a question of putting it together, but we do have one more component, or a couple more components, again, that come from the kit. I have this stock that is going to go here. That comes from the kit, and we're going to use the envelope for the inside. So all you do is take the envelope apart, being very careful at the edges. I'm going to bring my trimmer back in, and we're going to cut off the edges. But this time we're going to keep the top flap attached because we need that. Normally I cut it off, but we need it for this project. So we're going to cut off the other 3 sides. We're going to save that for another project. These envelopes, I love that they do kind of double duty. And now we need to straighten this one out. So actually I'm going to do it this way. We're going to cut it so that it cuts off that edge that is not straight, like that. And then we're going to cut it at, I believe it's 2 1/4 inches. Let me double check. Yes, 2 1/4 inches by 5 1/2. So we'll do it down at the bottom. 2 1/4 inches. And the nice thing is you can get 2 cards from the one piece, from the one envelope, because you can cut another strip that's also 2 1/4 inches. And we're going to cut that by 5 1/2. I think we're done with the trimmer. And the reason I did that on the middle panel is because when I had it, here we'll start putting it together so I can show you. We're going to put this on the inside just with some multi-purpose liquid glue, and I definitely recommend that rather than Stampin' Seal or another adhesive because it gives you time to reposition, especially since it is the same size as the inside panel that it's going on. You can move it around a little bit before it dries and make sure it's positioned exactly. So we're going to position that over here. And press it down. And then our 3/4 inch panel is going to go here. Oops, we have to cut that down to 5 1/2. I need that trimmer one more time. So it is 3/4 inch by 5 1/2 inches. And that also will go on right here with our multi-purpose liquid glue. And so originally I had this panel like this, but I just felt it was too plain. If you like it like that, you can certainly leave it like that, but I decided to put this behind it just to give it a little more interest. So again, I'm going to use my multi-purpose liquid glue. And this one you have to make sure it's on the right edge, flush with the right edge and the top and bottom. And there's just enough so that it covers that whole white space because we're going to glue this down. And this was Jackie's card, but I decided to add this. Instead of doing it, I was going to do it flush so it came like this. And I decided that I did not want to cover up too much of this beautiful card. So I extended it. And we'll do it about like that. So there's just a little bit peeking out from the edge. So you want to make sure your adhesive goes here and not here, because otherwise it will stick to the card. So for this, I am going to use my Stampin' Seal. And we're going to position it so it's even on the top and bottom. It's wanting to catch already, and I want to make sure that I leave just a little bit of space on the right-hand side, like that. And again, there's no adhesive here, so it's not going to stick. And we're going to use some multi-purpose liquid glue. And next, I have die cut from Evening Evergreen. This comes from the die set, the Horizon dies. And I put an adhesive sheet on the back first so that it makes it easier to adhere to the project since it's got some narrow edges. So I'm just poking out the excess, and with my take your pick tool, and we're going to peel the backing off. Well, first we're going to adhere this one. So this one you do need, I use the glue dots from the set for this because they're nice and small. and fit them throughout this die cut. And then we're going to take the backings off, and then that's going to go down here, and we'll peel the adhesive sheet off of the back of this piece, and we'll position that down toward the bottom of the card, of this card. And burnish it with your fingers so that adhesive catches. And now we're going to use the pale papaya ribbon that comes with the set since it coordinates. And all I did for this, we're going to tie it. We're going to adhere it this way and just adhere it to the back. Actually, I think we'll do it this way so that it overlaps on the front. That's probably the easiest way. And we're going to overlap it where the knot is going to go. So again, using some glue dots from the set. I'm going to use a couple of them. And we'll bring it over like this. And then the same thing on the other side, with a little bit of overlap. And I'm just going to make sure that the ribbon is straight and not twisted. Bring it over to this side and match it up. And then we're just going to take another piece and adhere it underneath and just tie a little knot. And so that it pretty much covers up where our overlap is. And then the only thing we have left, let's fix this. I wanted to overlap that edge just a little more. And if you want to, you can actually put another glue dot there. And the only thing we have left is embellishments. We've got those gorgeous rhinestones from the kit. And when I made this card, I didn't realize there were actually two sizes. There are larger ones and then smaller ones. So we're going to use some of each this time. Putting them on with my Take Your Pick tool. One of the big ones, and then we'll use two of the smaller ones over here. And that is our first card. All right, this next card is a quick one. And I did the same thing. I used a card from the paper pumpkin kit and cut it down, cut the card front down just the way I showed you for the last one. So that is right here. And I've got a basic white card base again. But just, of course, a traditional fold, an A2 card. And I also cut two pieces of cardstock. This is Misty Moonlight, and it is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And then I've got Blushing Bride, that's 3 3/4 inches by 5, because this is about 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. And I'm going to put these on. I purposely put them at an angle because I wanted to add a little interest rather than just layering them the traditional way. So I'm going to grab my Stampin' Seal. And put this one in the other direction. And I tried to kind of work in the white spaces to help cover them up a little bit. And then for this one, we're going to do some stamping. So I've got a little note that comes from the Paper Pumpkin kit, and we're stamping that in Misty Moonlight. And then on the inside on this card, I used the leaf stamp that's from the kit, and I did it in shaded spruce because I feel like that's what color this is, even though it doesn't say so. But I think to go with the Misty Moonlight theme, I'm going to do it this time in Misty Moonlight on the inside. So we will do that. And I think I'm just going to do it in the outer corners. Oops. And then the only other stamping we have is the birds, and that stamp comes from the On the Horizon stamp set. So on this one, I did it a few times instead of just once. Let's see, which way do we want it here? This way. Make sure it's right side up, and that I don't have any stray ink on the edges. And so I kind of wanted them to go through here a little bit. And maybe up here. That is it for our stamping. So before we put it on the card though, we're going to bring in some Misty Moonlight ribbon. And that comes from the Cotton Ribbon Combo Pack. So for this one, I decided to line it up, even though it's actually a little bit crooked. I purposely lined it up underneath the trees because I felt like that was a good spot. So I'm again going to bring in my glue dots from the kit, and we're going to put a couple of them on the end of the ribbon. And so again, we'll line it up and put it to the back and then trim it. And do the same thing, put some glue dots on the back. And then make sure it's lined up. And now I'm just going to use my Stampin' Seal on the back, rolling it right over that ribbon for kind of an extra layer of protection. And again, turning it at an angle. And then I'm going to bring the ribbon back in and just tie a bow. And we'll attach that to the front. So the same thing, I put some glue dots on the back. And I think we'll place it in the middle this time. And then trim those ends a little more. And there's our second card. And I think I'm going to stick one more glue dot underneath there just to hold that down in place. Sometimes you do need to add one just to be able to position that ribbon where you want it so that it stays, and so it also helps the ribbon not to come apart. I'm going to do like that. And so it lays where I want it, and the ribbon is in place and won't come apart. So that, like I said, is card number 2. For cards number 3 and 4, again, I used the stamp set that comes, the extra one that comes with that paper pumpkin kit. So with lots of big, bold flowers. So that's what we're using this time. And I made them in similar ways. I used the scrap that we cut off from the card fronts. And if you want to, you can either cut it down ahead of time or you can stamp and then cut it down. So I cut it down to 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm going to bring in my scrap again because we're going to be stamping off. We're going to be stamping around the edges, I should say. And I found that it's actually easiest to start with the detail stamp since it's in a darker color, and it makes it a little bit easier to line up the flowers since it's a 2-step stamp. And I am stamping in Calypso Coral. So all I did was randomly around the piece of cardstock just stamp so that it's some of it's off of the paper, off of the cardstock. Let's see, maybe like this. And like this. And then actually we need that ink one more time because we're going to do the inside of the card. We're going to stamp a flower there as well. So I have just a basic white card base again. And now we'll bring in Pale Papaya for the larger stamp. And for that, I think I will take ink pad to stamp since it is so large. And so to line it up, I just kind of looked at, I'm going to take this away, make sure it's one layer, the 2 smaller flowers and line those up first, and then the bigger flower lines up automatically. So that's the inside. And then we'll bring this back. And we'll ink up again. And then I've got, let's get my bone folder, and then I've got a layer of Calypso Coral, and it is the same size as the card front, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and we're going to put that on with some multi-purpose liquid glue. And then we'll layer this one. And then I cut a strip of Calypso Coral, and it's just under 1 inch by 4 inches so that it'll sit right here. And on this one I stamped the roses, which is another little flower that comes in that extra set right here. And so I'm bringing in my Calypso Coral again for that. I just did one at each end. And then while we have the ink pad out, we are going to stamp the sentiment. And we're going to stamp it on the tag that comes with the kit. And there are 4 tags that come with the kit. So you could make 4 cards And if you were going to do that, I would suggest, instead of stamping on the scrap that comes with the kit that was left over like we did, you could stamp right on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock and then cut it down to size, because then you would have 4 panels that you could cut down, that are cut down to 4 by 5.25 inches. So if you're going to do that many cards, that's what I would suggest. It's the same exact process that we use here, except on the whole sheet of paper. And with the tags, you could make 4 cards. I also used ribbon from the set, but I did notice after I put it together that this is another component of the kit, and I was going to try and see if we could work it into the design. So it may mean actually covering up, maybe like that. So we'll cover up our roses just a little bit, but I don't know. Let's see. And we've got our ribbon too. So again, ribbon from the kit, and I just cut off a section. I think I'm going to do that. I think we're going to add this component. So even like this, or maybe, I know what we're going to do. We're going to cut it in half like this. And we're going to put half here. We lost a little bit of it, but that's all right. We're just going to tuck it in then. So we'll put it here and then here to add to that tag. Yeah, I like that. So again, we're going to grab some of those little glue dots from the kit. And we'll put one on each end of the tag. And then we're going to put the ribbon on the back, because then we're going to bump it up with glue dots. So again, ribbon, straighten it out a little bit, and we're going to put some glue dots to hold it together and to hold it to the tag. So we'll fold it over at an angle. And we'll place it like this. And there are dimensionals with the kit, so we'll put some of those on the back, making sure that I overlap some to hold down that ribbon. And the die cut. And so we'll adhere this. And then put this on top of it. Yeah, I do like that. I like it with the addition of the other die cut. And of course our bling, and I think this time we'll move them around the card a little bit. So I'm just going to grab my take your pick tool. And I used 3 large ones again because I kind of didn't realize. I think we'll do a couple up here in the white space. And then one down here, and maybe a couple more. Let's see. Maybe here. We've got lots of them, so that way our eye is drawn around the card, and that is card number 3. Here is the last card. Very similar to the other one, but I was going for a simpler look. This time we're actually starting with a fresh freesia card base. And again, using another scrap that is from one of the card bases that we cut apart. Or if you wanted to, again, you could use an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock, because we're not using any of the die cuts from the kit, we're just using the stamps. So what you could do is stamp the flower 4 times in the middle and then cut it apart. And so it would be in a different place, either here or probably up here, or on this end on the card, depending on the way you position it. So if you want to make multiples, that's a good way to do it. And just like with the last one, we're going to start with the detail that's in the darker color, in this case Highland Heather. And I'm just going to stamp it in the corner, about like that. And while we have the ink out, we're going to stamp Celebrate. And on the inside of the card, sending you birthday wishes. And that's going to go on the inside. We're going to bring back that little rose, and we're just going to stamp it underneath 3 times. So our inside is done. And we just have to finish the stamping of the flowers. I'm going to bring in fresh freesia. Again, bringing that ink pad to the stamp. And lining it up over the detail. Now I'm actually going to add an extra component, because there are leaf stamps that come with that kit. So if you want to add a little more color, what I did was stamp the outside lighter section of the flower only on a Post-it note, and then cut it out. We're going to use that as a mask, so that we can add some detail. I'm going to bring in Soft Succulent, and we're going to add some leaves. Let's see, I'm not sure if I'm going to use all of them or not. But we can add them kind of like this. And maybe we'll put the double one. Maybe over here. Oh, it's going to be large. Maybe here. And you do want to remember, when you cut out your mask, to cut it very, very close to the edge of where you stamped, because there's always a little bit of a gap, and it helps to eliminate that if you cut it very close. Let's see what that looks like. Maybe we'll do one more on one of the small flowers. We will use all of them. Make 3 groupings. Maybe we'll put that one here. Oh yeah, I like that. So we've got just that little addition of color. And so because of that, maybe we'll add soft succulent ribbon, the open weave soft succulent ribbon, instead of the gorgeous grape. Yeah, I think that will make a nice contrast. So again, we're going to take our glue dots from the kit. And I did the same thing with this card as I did with the last one. Just put a strip around the back and then tied a bow and put it on top, because I find that to be much easier. And now we can adhere this to the card front. Again, using that Stampin' seal to overlap the ribbon and help hold it down. And then we will tie a little bow. I like to tie it off the roll just so that there isn't any waste or very little. Trim the edges. And again, apply this with glue dots. And putting it over on the side. And I think I'm going to do the same thing I did with the last one and grab one more glue dot. So that I can position that tail better. And then of course our bling. So this time I put some bling in the centers of the flowers. The large one in the large flower and the smaller ones in the smaller flowers. And then a couple more. Oops. And that is it. That is our last card. I hope you liked all of my alternatives today. I've had so much fun with this kit. I know that I can think of others as well. And I do appreciate those of you who join me every month for my paper pumpkin alternatives. Remember to stick around on my channel. I have cards, scrapbook pages, tips and techniques, home decor items, all sorts of things that hopefully will interest you. So check those out as well. If you need a demonstrator, I am happy to be yours. And I will see you again next month. Take care, everyone. Happy stamping. Bye-bye.